What's going on, everybody? This is your boy XQ420. Want to welcome everybody back to another episode, Showtime with the Cube. I've got my co-host with me, Corey Hughes. Corey, how you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing great.
Doing great. I'm doing good myself. If it's your first time,
I'm just relieved.
Channel,
I'm just relieved that this is not about She-Hulk.
Yeah. We'll be getting to that over the weekend. But this particular episode will not be about She-Hulk. It will be about a recent special presentation from Marvel Cinematic Universe, Marvel Studios. But if it's y'all's first time to your channel, don't hesitate. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the follow button if you follow us on podcast platforms. So, Corey, we're going over Werewolf by Night special presentation, 54-minute short film. It's almost like what we call it, like an indie film. You know what it would kind of be like? Short film, indie film.
Yeah, short film. Like it felt like your typical short film, even though it was a little longer. I mean, it was almost an hour long, but it had that short film feel to it. So when it was over, because of the length, I wasn't sure, what exactly they were going for. Right. But it is just a one-off. It is not part of a new series, from what I can tell.
Right.
And I don't know if they're just testing the waters or what.
I think that's what it is. I think it's especially with the Monsterverse, a part of Marvel that they're trying to incorporate. Of course, we know that Blade movie is going to be coming soon. It's supposed to be coming next year, right before Thanksgiving. But from I made a video talking about this, how that particular project is in shambles at the moment because of the script and the overall direction it was taken, and how the actual director left the setting as well. So that's taken a back turn. So I think this kind of sprung up on everybody. Nobody was really expecting this. This is kind of like out of the blue. I understand that this is October, Halloween. I would have felt like they would have released this a little bit closer to Halloween, if not on Halloween. What do you think about that, Corey?
No, I think October in general, at least in recent years, is close enough to Halloween to start doing the Halloween stuff. So let me start off by saying that, first off, when you mentioned the Werewolf show to me, I had never heard of it, so I was kind of surprised that it even existed. And then when I found out that Marvel was behind it, I was pleasantly surprised. And then when I watched it, I was even more surprised. And I was actually very happy that Marvel was trying something new. They were trying something different. They were breaking from their typical formula with a whole new property. The last thing I want to see from this show is them to start bringing in Spider-Man and whoever the fuck else. Right. I don't want to see any of those people ever again. Right. So, and so while it was new, it reverted back to the classics. The classic.
Oh yeah, it's a very classic. Yeah, very classic feel. Classic cinematography, of course, with new age technology, but very classic cinematography gives you that 30s feel when everything was black and white.
Yes, and at times it felt like Sin City, like when she held the stone and it glowed red, and everything else was black and white. Right. That was cool. I liked the effect that gave. There was a lot about it that I liked, just because it didn't. There was some woke overtones, but they weren't in your face. Is what I'd refer to as the new normal, in as far as what we can expect from things like casting and themes and stuff like that. So, but it wasn't overwhelming, and I thought the story was pretty cool. There was some twists and turns in there, and I thought it even had a touch of H.P. Lovecraft in the monster design for the primary monster in the film.
Right.
So
Of course, and
there was a lot that I
yeah,
appreciated. There was a lot that I
mm-hmm.
appreciated was basically the point I was making.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's no doubt about it, and of course, guys, spoilers. Okay, so if you haven't watched it, it's only 54 minutes. Well, it's probably less than that because we're going to say beginning, incorrect, 50 minutes. Take 50 minutes, check it out if you hadn't checked it out yet, and then come back to us. Please do for this breakdown. But it starts off, and it allows you to know that this is actually part of the Marvel universe, but
Mm-hmm.
it also gives you that homage that this is the less known part of the universe. I did like that, where it's like, hey guys, we are still in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but we're going to try to take this in a whole different direction as far as what we're going to attempt here, the edginess. Now, of course, Corey, I got to let you know up front, they did do it in black and white to escape a TVMA rating. They did do that. That was the premise, to get it back down to TV 14, because we do know, there's arms being cut off. So you got to have blood. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if you cut an arm off, man, bite a neck. You know what I'm saying? So it's got to be blood involved. So
I think it played out well in black and white.
mm-hmm.
I think it was handled very well, and I don't think that I would actually want to see a full color version of that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very happy with the presentation as it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, I do believe that they're going to incorporate these particular characters in later pieces in their MonsterVerse. Of course, we know that the Blade movie, the Black Knight, if I'm correct, will be directed more towards the MonsterVerse of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Because, of course, we know at the end of Eternals, they say the actual person who's speaking to the gentleman through the blade is actually Blade. Yeah, so that is his voice. So I think these characters will be back in what capacity? Will it be more special presentations such as this one-offs, or do you think they could bring them back in some type of mashup in a major film?
That's a good question. I don't think that anything that we saw in this episode could be brought back easily, right? I mean, you could create an entire storyline around that Bloodstone, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could create a whole universe around it. But I don't know if that wasn't the idea. Who knows? I don't see them bringing back character. I don't see them doing like crossovers with other characters on other shows, with characters that are just in a one-off.
Right. Now, I did see where people were saying that actual Werewolf by Night is closely related to Moon Knight, as I think they said Moon Knight made the debut in the Werewolf by Night series. So could they potentially have some overpassing in that? I haven't heard the rumors or rumblings, but if they have a Moon Knight season 2, could we see some cameos within that? There's potential if they're going to add Moon Knight to that particular universe, MonsterVerse. Mm-hmm.
They could definitely do that, but one of the problems that I have is that it seems like for decades, that we had characters whom were just doing their own thing, and everybody begged for a crossover. And when you got one, it was special.
Right.
And then something like the Avengers was like, holy shit. And now they want every film to be the Avengers, right? And I wish we could go back to superheroes. Like what happened to the local superhero, right?
You got down
the local superhero who defends the neighborhood and kicks the crime boss out of New York City or whatever he fucking does, right? And that's it.
They got him,
but
Corey.
You don't have to have Superman drop in on him.
Yeah, Corey, they got him. It's gay Captain America. You didn't know that? He fights for the homeless. I mean, that's what he does. he goes out there, he fights for the homeless and downtrodden. You know what I'm saying? The real Captain America is in the actual universe, but he's the gay Captain America.
I mean,
with the
all
wooden
throughout
shield.
the comics, God, for 50 years of comics, you really didn't get a whole lot of these crossovers, right? It wasn't until recent years, the last 20 years, right, I'd say, that the crossovers are really, they're trying to sell them on everything. And I think how this applies to this show and other new shows and new characters is I want some more character development. I want to give a shit about this character before you start bringing in other people to try to save the day, right? Like we're seeing what's happening with She-Hulk, right? And we'll talk about this new episode. Have you watched She-Hulk yet? We'll talk about this new episode on the next show.
Haven't watched it. We'll watch it in the morning though, so we can get on that. Yeah.
Oh, make sure you got a bucket nearby. So
a bucket.
But I think that we see what happens when you have these crossovers too early after the introduction of a character. We need to give a shit about the characters before they cross over anything. And I don't want to see any crossovers utilizing anything from this MonsterVerse because you got to think this was a much smaller part of their publication universe, right? It didn't bring in a whole lot of money. It didn't have a very wide range of comic readers. DC did the same thing. They had like Frankenstein, who was like a secret agent, right? They had some weird shit. And so this Dracula.
This is low budget because I mean, did we really have? There wasn't much CGI. You know what I'm saying? Most of this stuff was just even the werewolf's costume. That just looks like an homage to like a 1930s costume. Nothing looked CGI there. It wasn't like the underworld lycanthropes. So most of it was filmed like inside that building, and that was it. It wasn't much for. It didn't require a whole lot of money behind this. Minimal cast, no heavy hitters in the cast. So I thought it was good. I appreciated the storyline, although none of it was original in as far as every element we've seen before. It was just combined in a new way with a nod to the classics, right? So, So we have a family quarrel. With Ulysses Bloodstone finally passing away, and the thing that I want to notate there, because they said that the Bloodstone does bring the wielder multiple powers. Obviously, we see the power to actually transform a monster or transform a human that's masquerading as a human who's really a monster, can bring that out. But it also said it had powers to lengthen of the time that you're on this planet. So the way Ulysses was in that coffin, I think that's the way he actually perished, because I believe that Bloodstone actually allowed him to live way longer than a normal human being would. And we know that the lady who was married to Ulysses at the time is actually Elsa's stepmother, not her original mother. Do you think that could be the case there?
Well, that could be the case. They didn't really clarify, or the other possibility was that they made him up to look like that after he died. So we presented but they didn't clarify. But I like your hypothesis better. That would make sense.
And it would make sense why the hunters would be like, okay, so. Yeah, this is something I really want. It's going to extend my life. You know what I'm saying? It's going to give me these extra powers. And so I'll be able to do my job better and I'll be able to live longer. They didn't, as you said, they didn't go into how long Ulysses had been alive. But if I'm just going off the scope of what they gave me during this short film, it's kind of making me think that he actually lived for quite a while.
You see, I really didn't pick up on a lot of that. I mean, all that is definitely possible. But I didn't pick up on a lot of that. What I mostly picked up on was that they were part of a secret group. All of the hunters were part of this secret group that's been like a centuries-old tradition. And they go out and they kill the bad guys. It was a lot like Supernatural, which is like one of my favorite TV shows of all time. You know, the two brothers go out and kill monsters.
Yeah. So they basically they were not to discriminate on what monsters they killed. They just killed monsters in general. So to them, it didn't matter if you were pure at heart and didn't hurt anybody. You're a monster, so you got to die. So that was the premise of the group. And when they actually got to let me get his actual name right, Jack, who is the actual werewolf, and they said he had over 100 kills. He actually talks to Elsa later on, and that lets you know that when he's going out and he's actually hunting monsters, because I believe that's what him and the Man-Thing actually do together. That they're only hunting bad monsters. Did you catch that as far as what their pact is?
No, I didn't pick up on that either. Right. And I watched it pretty intently too, and I didn't really pick up on that. Yeah,
because he said he had 100 body count, over 100. Right. So that means so it's got to be recorded.
Right. What I felt the focus of the group and the reasons that they were there were more that they were just competing for the right to be the new leader of the group. I didn't really sense they perceived getting any additional powers from it or anything like that. And it kind of felt like they didn't understand the significance of
probably not
of the stone, right? They seemed kind of like a bunch of disheveled kind of hooligans.
Right. Right. But I thought they were well cast. They were because to be a monster hunter, I mean, you kind of got to be weird. I mean, let's just be honest. You know what I'm saying? You kind of got to be weird. All of them were weird in their own right. Probably Joven was probably the most out there.
Is he the Viking?
The bigger guy with it. Yeah, the Viking. So I mean, he was straight for the jugular to start off with. Of course, you got to have your Chinese guy in there. But he didn't stick around quickly. And I did like that Marvel actually went out and like legit killed somebody. You know what I'm saying? It's just like that's not something that they've been doing in their movies like at all,
right?
Or any of their things, the films or anything. Nobody really dies except for like Infinity War. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Well, I think that they are. It seems as though, and I've seen past analysis of this, but as a society, we go through these waves of being prim and proper, like in the 1950s, and then letting it all hang out, like the hippies in the 1960s, right? And then the pendulum swung back the other way to real conservative in the 1970s, and movies got really violent. A lot of really kind of harsh themes in movies in the 1980s, raw themes. And then in the 1990s, you get, then in the 1990s, it gets cleaned up a little bit. The 1980s, like you get Back to the Future and you get Gremlins and all the cute stuff, right? And then it kind of swung back the other way in the 90s, and you had a bunch of raunchy stuff go on in Hollywood then. So you have this pattern of things swinging back and forth, and perhaps this is an indication that we're at the end of this kind of woke era of entertainment, and they're realizing that they're losing money and losing audience and ultimately destroying the craft of filmmaking that's been around for 100 years in Hollywood, Yeah,
correct. Now, with Elsa, she's been gone from the family for a while. Now, she doesn't state, Verussa does not state how long she's been gone, but she's been gone long enough to where she's not the rightful heir of the Bloodstone. I don't know who makes that decision. I guess Verussa just made it.
Well, she lost her right because of so much back and forth. And it didn't seem like she really cared that much, didn't really care about being part of any family legacy. And at this point in the show, you're not really sure what that means. But she is like, the impression I got was like, she's like the firstborn who would inherit all the money, but he was a dick, and the rich dad kind of kicked him out and was going to leave it to the stupid brother, right? And then the father dies without a will, and this guy comes back trying to weasel his way back in, right? So this is the kind of same feeling I got from her. But, her motivations at this point were unclear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Especially at the beginning, as she is quote unquote an outcast, and obviously her and Verussa have had some entanglements in the past. Let's just say that they didn't seem to be on speaking terms. All right,
right?
probably left in a with fire and brimstone behind her, but she's came back to retain her rightful birthright, and it does seem that, like, when she left there, it's obvious from the way she was actually able to handle herself, fight, that she has been training. Okay, so
right,
we do see that aspect of her. That, and what I would assume is that there was a disconnect on how they were approaching monster killing. That's what I would assume, because she made it seem like it made it seem like, I didn't like the way things were going here, so they, like I said, they were indiscriminate on what they were killing, just as long as it had a monster title. So I think Elsa couldn't be a part of that anymore. Do you think that could be the case?
Yes, I think that definitely was the case. And she appeared to be fairly reasonable throughout the show in her interactions with, I'm sorry, I don't remember his name.
It's Jack. His name's Jack.
Jack.
It's a very just like blah name. It's just like, oh yeah, I'm Jack. It's just like,
same thing, right?
It's a forgettable name. You're just like, damn, let me look his name up, because it's not like Galadriel or nothing like that. You know what I'm saying? It just sticks out. No, I'm just Jack. I'm just Jack. Every once in a while, I'm a werewolf. You know what I'm saying? But most of the time, I'm Jack.
Right. And speaking of Jack, it seemed pretty apparent in the first couple minutes of the film that he was going to be the lead character in the film. Yeah. They gave us that right from the jump.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the way the camera was following them. Yeah, you definitely knew. Right. Said, okay, this is.
They gave us all those
werewolf.
Indications.
Yeah, this is obviously.
Well, I didn't get that he was the werewolf yet, right? So I left it open to. I wasn't trying to figure out any mysteries at this point. I didn't know what the plot was. I didn't know anything, and so I was just trying to absorb it all and see where it went. And so, no, I was if you want to continue with the plot, we'll get to some of the more interesting parts with Jack and what led to his coming out, so to speak. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm coming out. Yeah. So of course, they sit around. They have their ritualistic ceremony, Ulysses, and I know people have been to these like convenience shops where you can put a quarter in, and you got these mannequins that'll talk to you. That was an homage to that. Did you catch that? I don't know if you've been to any of these gift shops that do that, but around my area, Myrtle Beach, they got a bunch of them.
No, I didn't catch it.
Okay, if you're ever in one of these gift shops, you'll just see they'll be in a glass casing, and you put a quarter in, and the thing will start talking to you. All right, and then randomly they
you mean like Zoltan
start talking,
like from Big?
Yeah. Okay. To be just like that. So that was an homage to that, and I thought the little butler over there, but he had subtle moments throughout the movie where I was just like, this dude's ridiculous. When he's sitting there unwinding the casket, I was like, man, where'd they find this guy at, man? And then later on in the movie, like when they're fighting, he's standing there holding the pole that unwinds the casket like he's gonna do something with it. I was like, man, where'd they find this cat? I was like, man, that's a perfect that's a perfect hire right there, because after everything's over, he's just like, "Oh, what can I do for you, ma'am?" You know what I'm saying? It's like, look, I don't want no beef, okay? I'm just heating.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
I felt that like every aspect of this story they told was a nod to the older horror films and some of the original horror films. Like I grew up from the time I was like single digits, right? Like watching Lon Chaney and Vincent Price in all of those old horror movies. Like I knew all those horror movies by the time I was 10 years old, right? So I always appreciate the kind of nod to that history. And this, every single aspect, including the creepiness of the guy with the crank, you know, all of that, all of those were nods to, you know, characters that we've seen before in other old horror films. So it was good.
Right, spot on. So,
but if you're going to write, if in this modern era, you're going to write a classic horror film, that's all you have to pull from, right? If you want to get that across, you really can't introduce new characters, right? Because out of the dozens and dozens or hundreds of old horror movies, they've laid out every potential trope character there is. So all they really have to do is pick from what's already been done before, and people will feel more associated with that character. So yeah, I really appreciated how they did that.
Right. Of course, yeah. You couldn't be more spot on with that. Now we're moving a little bit further in the plot. Of course, Verussa greets the hunters, gives them a layout of what they're doing. They're all going to be going into the labyrinth and trying to find a monster within it to kill it, and it's going to have the Bloodstone tied to his back, and whoever's able to kill the monster, retrieve the Bloodstone, it would be theirs. Now, it doesn't give us any idea or indication of how they actually caught the man thing. I didn't see anything throughout there. Throughout the film on how they actually caught the man thing. But this seems like to be a ritualistic thing that if they don't have a direct heir for the Bloodstone, that this is what they do throughout time. They catch some type of monster and then you have to go. But the one thing that I wasn't expecting is that they were going to end up trying to kill each other. I really wasn't expecting that. I thought they were just going in there. I thought the monster was going they were going to fight the monster. Some of them would die because of the monster. Did you find that to be interesting?
Oh, yeah, totally. And I was surprised by it. But in hindsight, that was an inevitable twist because it was just a single film, nothing ongoing, didn't have to worry about character longevity. And it added, it added some spice to what could have otherwise been not as exciting. So, yeah, when they started, I really liked the big Viking guy with the beard. When he came in with his axe, that was just great.
Oh yeah, I mean he came right in and you know Jack, he just seems like the guy. He's like, look, man, I ain't got no beef with you, so let's just move on. Because when he meets up with Elsa, he's like, we should just walk by each other like we didn't see each other.
Right.
And she's like, what? Like she's like ready to get down. He's like, how about I just walk by you and just say good day? And then Joven comes out of left field with his axe ready to chop somebody's head off. It's just like, oh, so we playing for keeps out here. I didn't realize it. It was unbeknownst to me that they were going to be playing for keeps like that. And then, you know, whoever got the Bloodstone made out, then you just be sitting there like, okay, how you doing today, boss? You doing good? Hey, man, you just tried to cut my head off with an axe a few minutes ago. Okay? So, we just going to be chilling, be friends now? I mean, come on now. I mean, that's all I'm saying. So
just business, nothing personal.
Yeah, that sounds like assassins. It is. It's just only strictly business, okay? I mean, yeah, but you killed me, so it makes it kind of personal. You shot it, makes it very personal, okay? I'm just saying. But so we move throughout the labyrinth. All right, we see those moments right there, Joven. Elsa actually gets the upper hand on the Asian guy. Let me see if I can find what his name is. Lorne, I think that's his name, Liorn, Liorn. she gets the upper hand on him, cuts his arm off, shoots him in the neck with his own arrow. And, of course, shortly after, her and Jack get locked in the cemetery, in where they've got the caskets at. Of course, something comes to her mind. And you know what? My dad told me a long time ago that there would be a key up here. I'm just like, man, how did shit just come to your mind right now? You know what I'm saying? It's just like, you just out the blue. It's just like, you know what? I'm gonna bust out my aunt's, grave, and I'm gonna take a key out. I'm like, really? So I mean, how crazy is that? Her aunt thought she was gonna come back from the dead, and when she did, she would need a key to get out. It's just like, that lets you know how like ridiculous this family is, like how crazy they are. That gives you like an indication on that.
That was a little over the top with the ridiculousness. I mean, it would have been more plausible if it was just like left under the doormat or something like that. It was just unnecessary. They could have come up with something better. Once again, it's one of those, you got 5 minutes to finish editing that script or you're fired kind of deals, Yeah.
We got to throw something in. We got to get him out this building. What am I going to do? Okay.
Now,
I thought that time that maybe he was going to transform and bust him out. I mean, I didn't know. I didn't know.
So here's when this would be acceptable. Something as ridiculous as that is if you have a bunch of that throughout the film and it's designed to be tongue-in-cheek like that. That would be plausible and believable in that context. But if you only have it happen once, that's a little odd. But then again, we are talking about vampires and vampire hunters, or werewolves and werewolf hunters, right? So I guess anything really is possible here.
Yeah, monster hunters, whatever. Now, right before that, we actually see Jack meet up with Ted. And yes, Man-Thing has a name because Man-Thing was actually a human beforehand. I just looked up a little bit of details. He became like that from an experiment from where they were trying to recreate the super soldier serum. And when he took it, he happened to be around a swamp. So I guess it's almost kind of like Swamp Thing. I think Man-Thing came before Swamp Thing, if I'm correct. I think
Swamp
Thing came off
is
Man-Thing.
DC.
Yeah, Swamp Thing's DC. Mm-hmm.
Swamp Thing is really a thing of beauty that has only ever been executed well in that 10-episode series that only lasted one season that was out not too long ago. I don't know the history of Man-Thing, but Man-Thing sounds like a cheap knockoff of Swamp Thing, or what is it called? Man what?
Yeah, Man-Thing, yeah.
Man-Thing, yeah.
Or Ted, his real name.
Or Ted.
Yeah, if you call him Ted, and he'd be like, "Oh shit, you know who I am." Okay, cool. Because we see what happens when Elsa meets up with Ted, of course, and Joven comes in and he tries to strike Elsa, and Ted comes out and burns his whole head off. I was like, "Oh." What kind of power is this? Man just grabbed his head and melted his head right off. I was like, okay, all right, so we're going to be over the top on this. And I did enjoy the over the top in some of the deaths. Did you like that? I mean, it's a different spice. It's a different spice.
Yes, I appreciated it for sure.
Yeah. So
now,
I think
about it. Would it have had the same impact in full color? I don't think it would have.
Probably not. But we do see if they're going to do other iterations of this particular film, seeing how at the end they moved it to color.
That opens a big question. Are they planning on doing other things? Is this going to be one of many to come? I'm really curious about what their business model is surrounding this
special presentation.
Presentation, because it was good. It was good. Now, the problem with Marvel is we get too much of a good thing, right? We don't need 6 goddamn Marvel films a year. When I
Right.
remember
Yeah.
growing up and you went to the movies and you saw a freaking movie and it was kick-ass and you wanted a sequel. You had to wait 3 goddamn years. But see,
4 or 5.
sometimes, yeah, right?
Yeah.
So,
Sometime a decade. You know what I mean?
but see, Marvel, you don't need really sequels in the traditional sense because they're just meshing all their characters into all the subsequent films for each individual character. So it all feels like one big story blurred together. So
Which I don't know with where they've. I guess this could we say, because this is technically multiverse saga, so I get.
Can we
I guess
pretend
if you
that it
get
isn't?
technical? Yeah, but that's what they call this, man. That's what they called it, the multiverse saga. I mean, hey, don't shoot the messenger. You know what I'm saying? I mean, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just letting you know what they called it. So this, what weaving it into the overall cinematic universe. I don't know. I feel like Blade, Werewolf by Night, the Black Knight. I think all that stuff's gonna have to kind of be separate. Yeah, I think all that stuff's gonna have to kind of be separate from like your Thors and he's
definitely
America now. Yeah,
definitely.
It's gonna have to kind of be separate,
because when you look at the kind of origins of Blade and the origins of Morbius, it really goes back to like Dracula. Like the first appearance of Blade ever was in Tomb of Dracula #10, if I'm not mistaken. And so Blade has a direct connection to Dracula, and Blade then appears in some comics with Morbius, right? They have it out in a couple comics. So, but these are common sense kind of overlaps.
Right.
Right. And so if this connects to that, see, yeah, you definitely cannot connect Thor to a universe that has fucking Dracula. Sorry, like I just no.
Yeah, you can't have Werewolf by Night, hanging out with Thor, and chuckling it up. It just be like, all right, now y'all just y'all just throwing stuff together now.
You don't want to cross these streams, not at all. And if they can keep it separate and not try to, overload us with cameos, then something like this could really work. I hope they do more of this stuff, and I have a feeling they will.
Right. Now, we're moving the plot along. Of course, we go to Elsa with Jack, and they're trying to help the Man-Thing escape, and they do. We have a ridiculous moment where my man activates the bomb. Now, this is the longest bomb in the history of bombs to go off when he activates it. I was just like, my man's like, how do I work this thing? And Bo, he just activated. I said, Bo, he about to blow. Like, the way they scrambled, I thought the thing was going to blow up right then. I said, damn, he ain't going to be able to get the Man-Thing out. But it just went to a ridiculous moment where, it's kind of the comical part of this particular episode.
Right.
And he, he's trying to stick the bomb up against the wall. I said, man, stick it in the crack of the wall, dog. I was thinking that the whole time. He threw it at it. The shit didn't go off. I was like, oh, man, he going to blow himself up. Messing with this bomb. That's exactly what I thought. I said, man, he gonna blow himself up. And so he ends up getting the bomb into the crack of the wall. It blows up. Man-Thing's able to escape. Elsa uses some type of weapon. I don't even know what type of weapon it is to grab the Bloodstone off of the back of Man-Thing. And then, of course, this is when, if you didn't know it beforehand, all right, you know it now. When Jack tries to touch the Bloodstone, it knocks him back right there at that point in time. And I didn't realize that it was going to have that effect on monsters. I know you said it would drain their powers, but I didn't know it would, like an instantaneous knockback. So I think that lets you know how actually strong Man-Thing is. Like, you don't even know, like, his, even the upper level of his powers, if he was able to actually still function with that thing attached to him.
Right, because it weighed him. It weighed him down because of the power that it had in it. But yeah. So Jack gets knocked back. At this point, this is where the big one of the first plot twists, or the big plot twist. Would you say this is the big plot twist, that Jack is actually a werewolf, or would you say that this isn't the real plot twist?
This would be the plot twist, because if you went into this, if you didn't see the IMDb, was it little picture up here, which gives it away, because it's got Jack up here and then it's got Werewolf by Night. It's got the werewolf behind him. It's like, damn, but don't put the picture up there like that. But if you didn't see that, then you wouldn't suspect right offhand that Jack would be the werewolf. Right,
because they kind of give you a setting of these monster hunters. So a werewolf amongst them would not be kosher. Right. So we don't realize this until he tries to pick it up, and then he gets knocked back, and it's like, oh my God, why is he getting knocked back? And then the daughter of, I'm horrible with names.
Verusa. Yeah, stepdaughter.
She comes in.
Stepmother.
Right. She comes in and she picks up the stone and take it from there.
Yeah, and picks up Bloodstone and pretty much is like, so we got a monster among us. Man's been hiding in the shadows. And so, of course, they're very intrigued on what type of monster Jack is. And so, now these people that they have, man, did they not look like TVA agents from Loki? They look just like them. Yeah. I swear I thought, because their attire is totally different than everybody else's. Did you notice that? Like the way they were dressed.
I didn't really catch that. I just caught that they were stiff.
Yeah, the way they were dressed, like everybody else's dress seems like, of the era of, the 1930s or something like that. But the way they were dressed, it was just kind of like, modern military style. They looked just like the TVA. Looks like now, of course, their shockers didn't, disintegrate people. Of course.
Right, you're talking about the guys with the guns, right?
Yeah, the guys with the stun guns. Yeah, of course, their stun guns didn't disintegrate people like it did in Loki. But then they had a similar feel. Like, it was almost like, hey, look, Bo, we got low budget. Man, just take the TVA shit and just put it on them, okay?
Well, see, I see what you're saying, and I didn't catch that there was really kind of a time era difference in their clothing and the weaponry. I just kind of, to me, it just seemed as though it was, artistic liberties being taken. So, but it didn't jump out to me at that time that it was out of place period wise. Right. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. So everybody in there is using barbaric tools. Okay. And the way they talked, the way they dressed, the way they moved, the things they were using, what do you call it? Record player? Stuff like that. You're just like, barbaric tools. Boom. Stun guns. I'm just like, that's kind of weird and out of place. I mean, it just caught me right there. And I just also looked at the way they were dressed. I think the thing that's weird and out of place about it is more that we don't see them again, right? They're not an active until the end. Yeah. Right. They're not really an active presence throughout it. So. Yeah, of course. Now, of course, they're captured. They knock out both Elsa and, Jack's already knocked out, but stun him once again, knock him out. And they think they have, that they're going to put Elsa in the cage with Jack, find out what type of monster he is, so he can kill Elsa. So and this is what they're already assuming, that he's just the type of monster that once he goes into monster form, he's just going to be evil. So it's that, once again, it's reiterating that whole notion that, hey, just they're a monster, so they're automatically evil. Did you catch on to that? Well, yeah, for sure. But he's also apologizing to her, right? So as he's in the cage with her, he's apologizing like he knows he's going to rip her apart, right? And so you're kind of anticipating him just being your typical evil werewolf. But that's not what happens, is it? Right? No. They go through the.
it's actually, he's like, well, I ain't worried about it because, man, ain't no full moon. What am I worried about? And she's like, and this is another thing that we didn't know. She said, well, the Bloodstone can make you turn into the monster you are. I'm like, well, damn, this thing can do all kind of shit. And we don't really know the true origins of the actual Bloodstone itself.
Correct.
It didn't give you any indications on this, which I'm assuming is going to be something that is key in if Marvel's going this whole MonsterVerse route. Do you think this would be a key component of it in the future?
Oh, for sure. For sure. Like the stones that went into what's his face, into the glove, right? The gauntlet.
Oh,
the
yeah, Infinity
Gauntlet.
Stones. Yeah. Mm-hmm, yeah.
Right. Like, yeah, they love having objects that have to be fought over. It's a huge part of comics in general, I think, in one form or another, right? So it's like the bad guy having a nuclear weapon. We got to go stop him from launching the nuclear weapon, right? It's no different than we got to go and we got to get back to Bloodstone, right? It's like the same thing, but this is just a magical one.
Right.
So
right,
like
course.
if this were to go somewhere in this monster universe, which I'm going to reiterate, please keep separate from the other Marvel jerk-off universe, because you have a chance to do something good here. It's not going to be multi-billion-dollar blockbusters like Thor,
of course,
but it's going to be solid entertainment that can keep your reputation legitimate. And I think at this point with Marvel, that's what's important. They better keep their freaking reputation intact, because to destroy the legacy that they've built over this past 100 years or so, it would be such a shame.
You know what the issue is that, I'm sorry, but when you hit folks with the Infinity War and Endgame, man, you hit what, blockbusters like that, especially Infinity War. I thought, you talking about the pinnacle of a Marvel movie, and man, you get some lackluster showings afterwards as far as TV shows and stuff. Man, people are sour quick. You know what I'm saying? You're always gonna have people that's gonna go watch it, but you won't be able to garner as much revenue as you were before when you hit them with that blockbuster. So that's gonna be a major issue they're gonna have coming forward. That's why they kind of need to get on board on getting Kang out there, get him into the universe, and get him where, okay, all right, he's a big bad. All right, so which they've been kind of slow on developing villains right here recently. I don't know why.
Recently they've been slow on developing anything. Like, I want a new character who has a compelling origin story, who's probably more like an anti-hero. I mean, we have a shot with Black Adam coming up, right?
Yeah, well, that's DC. That's DC, but still in general, as far as comic movies go, we have a chance for that to be like an incredible film, because the story is new to the non-comic people, right? Black Adam's a new character. It's a whole new property. And so Marvel needs to do something like that. They need to come up with something original that really gets people, that moves away from politics entirely. Do like Samaritan did and go back to the classics. And with Samaritan was a lot like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and what was the bad guy in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? Shredder, right? And Shredder had his gang, and that was kind of like how Samaritan was, and it's such an OG concept, right? Yeah. Like Marvel, just go back to the basics, go back to the fucking the latchkey kid who becomes a superhero and saves his neighborhood, right? Like the original Spider-Man did, right? Just go back. It's time to go back to the basics, right? The Jenga tower is about to fall, right? You got to start over, and that's where we are. Yeah, there's no doubt. So we get back into the plot. Jack remembers something that worked once for him, okay? Now, that gives you a whole lot of hope. He goes up, he starts smelling her hair. Surprised he didn't bend her over to smell her butt. I was like, man, that's how you really know, okay? If you smell, isn't that how animals usually do? They smell each other in the crack.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
That's what dogs usually do. They come smell a crack. Oh yeah, I know. I know who you are now. I mean, so he gives her a good smell down, which she was completely freaked out by. Okay, all right. So hey, people out there, all right, it was consensual. Okay, this was consensual. This is to save her life. But I liked how he looked at her. She was like, "Does this work?" So well, it worked once. It's like, well, how many times have you tried it? I mean, that's the real question. You mean okay? It worked one time, Jack. How many times have you tried this? That's what she should have asked. Once out of what? Well, out about 50 times. Whoo! I mean, it's like, hey man, what can I do, man? This is our last hope. So Verussa uses the Bloodstone to transform him into the werewolf, and I'm actually glad that we didn't have werewolf throughout the entirety of the film. I'm glad they kind of saved that for the end. Because it just be kind of, if you 10 minutes in and he's werewolf for the entire film, you just be like, I mean, there's really no development there, because once it becomes werewolf, we understand what the deal is there. This folks got to die. Okay, I mean, this is all there is to it. So, and we actually see how strong he is in his werewolf form, because he busts right out of that cage, no problem. Now, Elsa, of course, thought she was going to be attacked. But he immediately detracts his attention from her, and the battle ensues from there. Typical battle. I thought this was a pretty good battle scene, especially with Elsa doing some of her fighting as well. I thought it was a pretty good battle scene. It's definitely the best battle scene that we've seen in the last couple of months, seeing how we've been watching She-Hulk.
Oh, yes. And that's a big statement, considering we just saw a battle scene in The Rings of Power. But no, I thought it was good. It wasn't grand scale. It didn't try to be. It was perfect for what it was. And I really enjoyed it. And I liked her like ninja moves and flips and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And Elsa
she showed that she could actually fight, and she wasn't just the spoiled daughter, right? So that was important.
Right. Yeah, so you actually see that. And so there's another moment in this, Corey, that I want to talk about, is when Jack, of course he's werewolf at this time, when he initially goes through the first set of guards, he ends up fighting the black guy, which I don't know what I don't think they said what his name was. Barrasso, that's his name. He ends up fighting him, but then Elsa ends up finishing him off. She actually slid a few folks' throats, okay? I mean,
yeah.
She's actually pretty badass, okay? There ain't no doubt about it, all right? She got some skill to her. But when he goes over and starts fighting the guards, and they've got that white opening that guards are just pouring through, okay? Once again, it gave me that indication of TVA, of some type of portal, because it's just white. You don't see anything. Guards just pouring through. Who starts to close the door? And why? That's the question. Why not continue to send guards to try to alleviate this threat? Who starts to close the door, and why? Do they not want them to go through that particular door?
That's a very specific question, and I don't even know that has an answer. I'm not sure that what you're looking for has an answer, or was written with the intention by the writers, right? So who knows?
Yeah. I found that funny, because, like I said, the whole time I'm thinking TVA.
It gave you a question that now needs to be answered, which wasn't. So
right, and of course this might be setting this up.
Did it feel out of place to you?
No.
No,
it didn't. It didn't, because of the way they're setting this up. It's almost like, even though this is part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they're trying to keep it from spilling over into the main MCU per se. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Yeah.
And so with that opening, of course, and like I said, the way the guards are dressed, the style of weapons that they're using, and all of a sudden the door is closing and you just see a white opening, which kind of reminds you of, you don't know the exact timetable of when this actually occurred. Well, hold on. I think they did say. Hold on. I think they did technically say that somebody said this is after Endgame, if that's the case.
That I don't know.
Yeah. So I think that's what somebody was saying. That this is technically after Endgame, but it almost kind of gives me an indication of maybe this didn't want to spill over into. This might be part of a multiverse type deal. You know what I'm saying? And so the TVA didn't want that to spill over into another universe. So that's what I kind of yeah, you know what I'm saying. So that's what I kind of felt right there, because if you
that
want,
might be borderline acceptable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that might be borderline acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
I might be able to live with that.
Yeah. So I mean, that's just, I wanted some type of closure on who was closing that door and why. Because I didn't see Verussa at no point in time. Did I see her hit a button to close the door? It's just the door starts closing. There was guards.
See, we were never given any inclination that this group was monitored by another larger entity, right? And so,
right. Mm-hmm.
As far as we know in the show, the old lady who was the widow is the top dog, right? And
right.
controls everything.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
As far as we know. So as far as we know, those were just some kind of security guards that she hired. But, I guess I don't know. Maybe we will know. Maybe we won't know.
Yeah. It just depends on where they take this. Of course, Verussa starts to attack the werewolf with the Bloodstone, which if you're a monster, that thing, Bo, you've about got no shot against that thing, like at all.
Yeah, that's how it seems.
Period.
But it also seems like you have to know how to use it. It doesn't seem like it's the kind of thing where it's just because you have it, you're going to, beat the monster. It seems like that's the kind of thing that probably, you probably have to bind with it, and it takes time to probably get to learn how to use it and make it function.
Right. Now, and of course we do see that from when she does the enchantment. When she turns Jack into the werewolf, because she actually walks around with the Bloodstone, does the enchantment. So it's obvious that you have to have some skill. You're not just going to pick this thing up and say, "Oh yeah, I'm the leader of the universe now." You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's not just like that. Of course, Elsa snatches it from her, knocks her out. The werewolf pounces on Elsa, but he remembers her sin. All right, so that's great. Remembers her sin. Doesn't kill her outright. He leaves. Verussa stands back up with her shotgun, and then Man-Thing decides he's going to jump in and melt Verussa, which was random as hell. I was like, okay, I was expecting the werewolf to come back. You know what I'm saying? And Man-Thing just busts through like, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" It just burns her in two. Now, from what I was understanding with some background knowledge on Man-Thing is that the reason he burns you is because, I don't know, it's like, his power is derived off your fear, something like that. That's what somebody said. So yeah. But yeah, so he burns her in two. That pretty much ends it. Now, there is some homages here, okay? The Somewhere Over the Rainbow's playing. If you remember, that was the first movie done in color. So they're going from black and white to color. There was a little homage there to that particular time period. So they were homaging to that particular era of film. And we see Elsa there with the Bloodstone. The butler's ready to do the bidding, and that's pretty much it for her. We don't know anything else. Later on, we see Werewolf with Man-Thing, and they just kind of discuss on how many times they saved each other. So it's obvious they've been in situations like this before. They've had many adventures together. So I don't know where they're going to take us with that in the future, if we're going to have more special presentations of these particular two characters, or if they're going to mix this into an overall Monsterverse. So that pretty much wraps it up. I thought this was probably a 6 out of 10. 6 out of 10 cubes.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. Just because I'm proud that Marvel's trying something different. Even if they're pulling off their old, not popular content, from the last 30, 40 years, because a lot of that horror stuff was old 70s.
Oh yeah.
So
People forget. Yeah, people forget Dracula and Hercules and all that stuff. All that stuff is MCU. Like all those people are in there. So there's a whole realm that they can go into. Will they do it? Will they pull it off effectively? I think they did this one effectively.
Yes, I think they did. But here's the problem. I think that no matter how effectively they pulled the stuff off, it's still their kind of B tier content as far as all their content goes. And it's going to target a very smaller market. Like if it gets a third of what the fucking normal MCU would get, I'd be surprised. Probably more like 15, 20%, I think, are going to like this and would want more.
Well, it's like you were like, man, when I sent you the message about it, you're like, man, what are you talking about? you're like, Werewolf by Night, what are you talking about, man? I was like, yeah, but it's out, So it's like, I mean, they didn't really do any marketing for it or anything, to be honest. It's just like, yeah, we're going to make this, so check it out if you want to. But, I mean, I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good. Pretty good. It gave me some solid character development. You understand motivations of characters, even if they died off early. And so I thought it gave a pretty cohesive storyline to only be 50 minutes in length. What do you think?
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen more. It would have been nice if it was a full 2-hour movie. But
I think they could have made it a 2-hour movie.
I think they were trying to keep it to episode length intentionally. In case they decide to do something with it. But it's so weird because some of these streaming companies are not adhering to your traditional lengths, like fucking Lord of the Rings, 1 hour and 6 minutes. Like, what the fuck kind of timing is that, right? So I don't know if like the traditional hour-long show concept applies anymore.
Yeah. So that is true. So our combined total 6.5 cubes out of 10. So definitely worth watching. It's something different from Marvel. It's not your run-of-the-mill Marvel content. So me and Corey both enjoyed that they tried to do something a little bit different here. And maybe I'm assuming that this is just going to only pertain to their MonsterVerse, where they do something in this manner. Right. Now, I do believe in their MonsterVerse that they need to try to make these particular movies rated R. They don't need to hold them back at all. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because it's already going to be for a niche audience.
Correct. I think that'd probably be best. They might even get a bigger audience if it's rated R.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this was rated TV 14. Like I said, the only reason why it wasn't TVMA was because it was in black and white. You didn't actually see the blood, but arms getting cut off, people's throats getting slit. You know what I'm saying? A werewolf knocking people's head clean. So it's like, okay, so there's stuff happening here. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like when you make it's kind of like all those times they made Wolverine movies and they were PG-13, and then finally Hugh Jackman's like, dog, are we serious? Wolverine ain't saved nobody, all right? Man got claws coming out his hands. He stabs and kills folks. This last movie, Logan, it's got to be rated R. And for me, I thought it was the best one out of all of them that made the Logan movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Marvel needs to stick to a rated R for their MonsterVerse across the board. All right. And I think it would benefit from that, and I think it would actually get more people in the seats if they do that.
Oh yeah, for sure. And again, would something like this make it in the movie theaters? I don't really know. Maybe something like this has a better home streaming.
Yeah. Of course. And they've got a TVMA side of Marvel anyway now on their Disney Plus, so. Just go ahead and just make content for that. We know the Punisher's coming back, so it's going to be very hard to not make that TVMA. So, you know what I'm saying? He's the Punisher, man. He kills people.
Just start putting tits back in your movies, and everyone will come out and see them.
Yeah. Somebody said, "Man, it's a tit shot." Okay, yeah, I'm definitely going. At least dudes are going to watch it. Okay, so yeah, that's Werewolf by Night. Not a bad film, pretty good film. So me and Corey both enjoyed it. Go check it out. If you sat through all this and didn't check it out, come on, y'all. Go check shit out. All right. But we appreciate everybody for checking us out. We're going to be bringing you plenty of content over the weekend. Me and Corey are going to be doing reviews, She-Hulk, Rings of Power, and Andor. So we're going to be doing that over the weekend. So we're going to be bringing that to y'all. So be on the lookout for those. So from you got anything else for the crowd out there, Corey?
Nope, sure don't.
Okay. All right. Yep. So from your boy HQ420, co-host Corey Hughes, we will catch y'all on the next Showtime with the Cube. Peace out.